Hi, and welcome everybody to the OSGA Sports Betting Channel. My name is Ross Benjamin. As always, on a Monday, I'm joined by my fellow professional sports handicapper, Mr. Doug Upstone, out of the great state of Arizona. Doug, what 90 what today?
Oh, 90. Come on, Ross. That's a cool spell coming through, which is actually going to happen tomorrow for a week.
So you're over 100.
Yeah, well, the average high actually right now is I think it's either 103 or 104. That's the average. Wow. And so we're actually a little below that. Last I checked, I thought it was like 102 or something like that. So, but it was hot over the weekend. We had some 110s and stuff like that. You don't get a lot of that this time of year, but it does happen. But we're going to get some rain and some humidity. So, but otherwise, it's all good. Hey, it's not New Orleans. I can tell you that.
Could be, I was going to say it could be a lot worse. But those poor people in Louisiana seem to get hit with every major storm. It seems anyway, and this is no different. My prayers and thoughts go out to the people of Louisiana, especially those displaced from their homes, and may they all stay safe and recover well. So today is Monday, the 29th of August, and we're recording for free picks in college football on Saturday, September 4th. But before we get to those free picks, we're going to discuss some of the lines in college football this week. And Doug, you brought to my attention, you found some lines that were very fishy. And I also saw a few, and I'm just wondering if we saw the same things, but I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, well, you'd mentioned, first of all, this isn't necessarily a fishy line, but it's one that's changing, is Tulane is being displaced. It's not official yet, but it's everything I've read, it's going to be official. Oklahoma was supposed to play at Tulane, which is in New Orleans, for those that don't know, and that's gone, okay? I mean, the stadium, in fact, is in such rough shape, they're not even sure it's going to be ready to go for their second game, which is a week later, September 11th. So that game is being transferred to Oklahoma. As you saw, Ross, the Tulane was right around plus 26. That's going to go up, at Oklahoma. And tough situation for them. That they went to Birmingham to practice just to get out of it. And so they're going to stay there and then have to go to Norman. So tough deal, for them. And we'll just see how that goes. But another one that I found in just line, and I'm not even saying it's necessarily fishy. I guess I just don't understand is probably maybe a better way to put it. Michigan State and Northwestern. Northwestern's only 3 points favorite against Michigan State, and that's a Friday night game. I forget if it's going to be on Fox or if it's going to be on ESPN, but one of them. And I'm surprised Northwestern's only -3. Michigan State's terrible. Okay, I mean their football program. I mean Mark D'Antonio, and by the way, I got an Italian name right here. I'll just get that.
You better, because me and your wife is going to get on your case a little bit there. Anyway,
he left that program, as it turns out, in a shambles, and so it's rough shape. Now Northwestern lost a lot of talent. Northwestern were 7-2 last year, beat Wisconsin, had a really nice season, but they lost a lot of talent from last year's team, but Pat Fitzgerald's credit, got a bunch of transfers, and most of those, from what I can see, are going to be players that are either some are going to start, some are going to be on the 2 deep, so they're going to be better. He had one of his better recruiting classes, and they're at home. Now Northwestern used to be a poor home favorite, but those days are gone. I just think 3 is such a low number. I can't see them not winning by at least 7 points. Ross, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, let me see. Northwestern's undervalued early in the year. I've heard that before. It seems like that happens every year, Doug. And again, I think I said it on our podcast last week. I consider Pat Fitzgerald, if not with you, with Chip. I mentioned that I think Pat Fitzgerald is definitely the most underrated head coach in college football when you consider the whole body of work, his record, how tough it is to recruit at Northwestern. The academic requirements are much different to get in there than it is most institutions in Division I, and they continue to win, and they continue to be undervalued, it seems like, year after year after year. And this is, again, a very astute observation in terms of you bringing this to the people's attention. It's something to take a look at. It's not the old Michigan State that we're used to under Mark D'Antonio, and they're sort of a mess right now. So we'll see. But what's the next game you see a little bit fishy?
The other, well, actually, it's kind of a two-pronged game, as it turns out. Cal is hosting Nevada. Okay, and the thing that I look at, first of all, was that Cal's a 3.5-point favorite. That's somewhat acceptable, but the over/under is 52.5, and now Nevada has and will continue to have a very fine offensive team, but this Cal defense is for real. Okay, we saw that last year, and I think 9 or more players are back for them, and so at home, where they're probably more likely to control the tempo, Nevada is decidedly a much better home team than a road team. So from that standpoint, I really like what's being offered here to take the under. I think the number is too high at 52.5. I could see this game, somewheres in the, let's just say 25 to 23, somewheres in that area, but low 40s, not crawling over 50. So just offhand, I like the value of the under in particular, and Nevada, on the half-point hook, might be worth a look on that one too.
Yeah, I would. California's got 9 returning defensive players. So you're right, Doug. I was looking that up as you were speaking. Not that I wasn't paying attention to you, but I wanted to give the folks accurate information. And to me, it jumped out at me because, California hasn't been a top flight Pac-12 program in quite a while, but they've shown signs of improvement of late. And you're right, that defense was top shelf last year, and their offense, which is notoriously very good at Berkeley, but their problem has always been stopping people, was the polar opposite last year. And I don't know if you show me that they're making Nevada just a 3.5-point dog, and that game, as I recall, is at Berkeley, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so that tells me that if Nevada was at home, they would be a favorite in this game. So I don't know. I just don't see Nevada. Nevada's not notorious for stopping people, especially stepping up in class against a Pac-12 conference team. So I'd be a little leery of that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, because if they're telling me that Nevada's got a good chance of staying in this game, I just can't see them winning the defensive struggle. But again, it could be another case of California just dominating defensively, and maybe Nevada won't be as good offensively this year. So again, good observation, Doug. Any others?
No, those are the two that really, stood out. I mean, the big thing though, Ross, is that it's fantastic this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that there's so many big games. Okay, just come right out of the box. I mean, it's literally going to be from Thursday, okay, with Ohio State and Minnesota, which I think is potentially at least a really good game for the first half, and then going all the way through Monday. So I think we got a lot of great games. I love the fact that they're putting this together, getting these teams. I love the fact that the Big Ten, okay, is opening up with many of their teams going head to head. I think that's great for the league. They get a lot of attention right away. So hey, I'm really excited to get this going, and I think there's lots of reasons to like it. This might be actually one of the best weeks of the season until you get to November.
Yeah, usually early on is when you see a lot of Power 5 teams feasting on these either FCS teams or mismatches against New Mexico State or of the world, those kind of teams. Yep. But I mean, Ohio State, Minnesota on Thursday, a full slate on Saturday with some pretty good games. Miami of Florida and Alabama at a neutral site. We'll see if Alabama continues to dominate in those opening games at a neutral site like they have the past couple of years. It'll be interesting because Derek King comes back for his senior year at Miami, and we'll see how good Alabama is, and Miami, if they could live up to their preseason hype as well. I think that's the kind of game that if Miami could stay within a 10-point margin of Alabama, or possibly even pull off an upset, watch out. They, even if they lose that game and they're competitive, Doug, I think you can't move them out of the top 10. I mean, they're talented. A couple games that I was looking at, Doug, that I thought were awful fishy is you have an Illinois team that just comes off a win against Nebraska. Now, look, Illinois didn't dominate the game from a statistical standpoint. Nebraska continues to find ways under Frost to shoot themselves in the foot and give games away. And Saturday was another. And look, you had Illinois, and you have to factor that in. I'm sure when you handicapped the game, you said, you know what? It's getting 7 points against a team that's continually over the last 3 years killed themselves with penalties, turnovers, underachieved defensively. And sure enough, that's what occurred again. But, you know, Illinois, after that big win, now in conference play in the first game under Brett Bielema, only a 6-point favorite against Texas San Antonio, Doug. So I would take a long, hard look at a reason to use the underdog in this game. I'm certainly not going to lay the points with Illinois. If I think that Illinois is the play, I'm going to leave it alone because I just think it's a trap game. Another game I'm looking at too, Doug, is Duke going on the road to take on Charlotte, which very rare you see an ACC team go on the road to play a Conference USA team. Now, look, Duke hasn't been nowhere near as good as they were when Daniel Jones was there as their quarterback, but they still have a pretty darn good head coach in Tuberville. And bottom line is Charlotte's only a 6-point home underdog in this game. So if you're a novice bettor out there that just follows college football, I'm not familiar with Charlotte. They do play in the Conference USA. And if you look and say, wow, an ACC team is only a 6-point favorite on the road against a team from Conference USA, who the hell is Charlotte? Well, it's never that easy, folks. So I would examine that game a little closer. And then the other one, Doug, I know Syracuse has really sunk to new lows, especially last year, I should say. 1-10 last year, a disappointing 5-7 the year before. That was on the heels of going 10-3 3 years ago and winning a bowl game. And everybody thought, well, Dino Babers has turned it around. Well, now they opened the year on the road at Ohio, and they're just a 1-point favorite. Again, an ACC team going on the road to play a MAC opponent, number one, is a story in itself. I don't recall in my recent memory that occurring. Okay. Then number two, to be a virtual even game. And then consider the fact that Frank Solich, the longtime Ohio coach, former coach at Nebraska, very successful, decided to retire, I think, back in April or May. So there, you had a coaching change, although it was an in-house hire, but still there's a transition there, Doug. So there's some different elements to look at in that game when handicapping that game. Any thoughts on any of those three contests?
Yeah. Well, the Ohio Syracuse game was of note, and I guess unfortunately it just speaks to how fast and swiftly that Syracuse is falling. And Dino Babers, great offensive mind and everything else, but obviously the recruiting is the issue now. And he's, and not to say that a guy in his 60s can't recruit. Okay, I'm not saying that, but sometimes the energy level isn't there. And then when you're in a conference, a power conference like that, you have to bring it, or you have to hire the young guys that can go out there and stir up the pot for recruiting, and it's just not getting done. So, it's, even though it seems really, as you say, it seems fishy, I can't say that I'm utterly surprised by it, from that standpoint. That's the thing. What was your second game? I'm sorry.
Illinois and Texas San Antonio.
San Antonio's got some offense. They got the ability to score some points. So Illinois, San Antonio, both games that you mentioned previously, if you can get 7 or plus, with those underdogs, might be worth a look. Because and that could happen. It's still early in the week. Those games, especially those games, they're not going to be looked at by many bettors. So we'll see what happens as we get closer to the weekend. But like I say, you can get those underdogs at 7 or more. Again, might be worth a look in those instances.
Yeah, and the other one was Charlotte against Duke. So it's again right around a touchdown, as you alluded to. And just quickly touching upon Syracuse, and we'll get on to the free picks, folks. Tommy DeVito has been a major disappointment, quarterback at Syracuse. He was a 4-star recruit out of New Jersey. They thought they got the next coming of Donovan McNabb when they got him, but the guy's a drop back passer. And to me, when you look at when Syracuse was succeeding in the early tenure of Dino Babers, it was with Eric Dungy under center, who was just recently cut by an NFL team. But my point being is he was a versatile quarterback. He could throw, he could run, he could beat you in many ways, keep plays alive in the pocket, make throws on the run, scramble, run for 100 yards in a game. Tommy DeVito's not that type of quarterback. And I believe that if Dino Babers wants to succeed this year, he's going to have to move away from it. He's going to have to ignore that 4-star heading and the pressure to play DeVito. And Garrett Schrader just came over from Mississippi State as a transfer. And I don't know if you remember him, Doug, but, once Mike Leach took over at Mississippi State, his days were numbered. And sure enough, he transferred. Schrader is one of those big kids, about 6'3", 240, very agile quarterback, not the best passer in the world, but again, very similar to the way Eric Dungy played when he was at Syracuse. So I'll be real interested to see what Babers decides to do in week one. Does he implement a 2-quarterback system? And then you know what they say about 2 quarterbacks. You really don't have one if you have 2. Anyway, Doug, I'll let you take it away on your free pick, buddy.
Well, on the free picks, we're going to go. I mentioned the Big Ten, and that's exactly where I'm going to go. We got a high noon start on the East Coast with Penn State against Wisconsin. Camp Randall, a place that I have been to many, many times in the past, and so very familiar with what goes on around there. Both of these Big Ten teams are coming off of disappointing seasons, and one of them, that disappointment is going to continue. Now, Penn State was 4-5 last year, Ross, and they did. The thing that you really noticed is that James Franklin, he's considered a pretty good recruiter, not a lot of playmakers on either side of the ball here. And they lost some talent on the defensive line. The old linebacker, if you remember that from Penn State's days, that seems to have dried up some. Now, Wisconsin had a lot of COVID problems last year. Were 4-3. I believe they lost every one of their first and second and half of their third string receivers last year. And so they were decimated. Now, their quarterback, the sensation Graham Mertz, came in and started as a freshman. He got off to a super start, but once the injuries happened, he lost his confidence. The receivers couldn't get open. Teams started crowding the line of scrimmage, took away the run. It was a nightmare for Wisconsin at this point. I think Wisconsin is probably the second best team in the Big Ten this year, behind Ohio State. And looking at the 2 clubs, the Badgers have there's stronger on both sides of the ball to line of scrimmage. They have more playmakers. I think the Badgers take a 3 or 4 point lead into the fourth quarter because I think Penn State will be competitive, but then they'll put it away. So I'm going to say take Wisconsin minus the 4.5 over Penn State.
Yeah, ironically, I just read an article in the USA Today. And the writer, college football writer for the USA, had picked. He was picking all the bowl games predictions. Who was going to be part of the New Year's Six, who was going to be in the college football playoff, and he actually had Wisconsin beating Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game and advancing to the national championship game where they fell to, I believe, Clemson. But Wisconsin sticks in my head because you brought it up, and I was sort of surprised by his prediction. And it goes hand in hand to yours in this opening game. So, so Doug likes Wisconsin. Is it minus 3.5, Doug, over Penn State?
I had it at 4, but I'll be honest with you, I did not look this morning. When I looked, I think it must have been either yesterday or the day before. It was 4.5. So if it's down to 3.5, all the better. Yeah,
well, right in that area. Let's say anywhere from 3.5 to 5 points. I think Doug I don't want to speak for you, but you would safely take them in that parameter, correct?
I would.
Okay. So I'm going to take a look at another game here. I'm going to take a look at number 23, Louisiana. And to refresh all your memories, they used to be UL Lafayette, but now they just want to be referred to as Louisiana. So that's what we'll go with. And they're going to be traveling to Austin, Texas to take on number 21, Texas. And boy, oh boy, you think the standards are tough to win at Texas? How about Tom Herman? He spent 4 years there, and they went 32-18, including 4-0 in bowl games and out the door. In comes Steve Sarkisian, who was recently the offensive coordinator with Alabama. We know how dynamic their offenses were under his guidance, and before then as well. Brian Dable was before that, who's now the offensive coordinator at for the Buffalo Bills. So they've had some pretty good coordinators at Alabama to go along with that talent. But in any event, Doug, I'm getting off track here. It's going to be a new coaching staff, okay? So I do think there's going to be a little bit of early growing pain. Now, I'm not here to suggest that Louisiana is going to pull the outright upset here, although I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if that does occur. Now, let's remind folks, this is a Louisiana team that went 10-1 a season ago, and their only loss came to Coastal Carolina by 3 points, and that's a Coastal Carolina team that was 11-0 before they lost a bowl game. Also, Louisiana opened last year and then number 12 ranked Iowa State and blew the Cyclones out in their home opener 31-14. And that came as an 11.5-point underdog. They have 20 returning starters this year. They have a lot of continuity in their coaching staff. I just think that they're going to be a dangerous opponent for Texas in this opening game. This game, to me, has all the earmarks of one that will go down to the wire, and I will not be shocked to see an outright upset here, but I won't get greedy, Doug, and I'm going to take Louisiana plus the 8.5 over Texas. And just a quick note, that line opened at 10 and came down to 8.5. So some sharp money went down early on Louisiana, because I know the general public wasn't standing in line placing big bets on Louisiana back in August. So in any event, I like Louisiana plus 8.5 at Texas. And Doug Upstone, he likes Wisconsin, the parameter between -3.5, -5. He's okay with that in their home opener against Penn State. Doug, how could the folks find you and reach you and tell the folks how you're doing of late and how well you did in college football last year?
Yes, college football was great last year and closed the season tremendously at 40-22. And so that's almost 65%. And like I said, started the year with a nice outright upset winner with the Fighting Illini in this case. So they actually had some fight. So that was good to see. So yeah, so it was very good. And so going to try and continue to keep the process going and see if we can have some more winners this weekend. I don't know about you, Ross. I'm going to be in a little bit light. I'm not going to go super heavy because, as opposed to the NFL, you don't get to see these teams play. And so even the coaches, once you go live, it's a different deal. So going to be conservative, going to take it easy, but definitely got some games I'm looking at, and one of them is the ones you just mentioned, Ross, with Billy Napier and the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Might have some action going on that one myself there too. What about you, Ross?
Well, I passed last week, Doug. There was 4 games on the board, and they were all stinkers, in my opinion. I mean, you had a team like UTEP that was a favorite more than a touchdown favorite on the road, a team that had gone 2-32 in their last 34 games against FBS competition. And they were playing a New Mexico State team that had 3 returning starters, didn't play at all last year because of COVID. Just a terrible card. I'm glad you won. How's that? But, here's what I look at early on, Doug. I'm looking for experienced teams. I'm looking for continuity in coaching staffs. I'm looking for strong home fields. I'm looking for underdog value. So adding that all up, I think I will have at least 3 selections on Saturday at minimum. And I'll definitely have one on Thursday evening as well. Not sure about Friday yet. Don't forget, folks, Sunday we have Florida State and Notre Dame. And then on Monday, a really intriguing matchup is Louisville goes to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels and Lane Kiffin. You could find my selections at rbwins.com. That's rbwins.com. If you want, you can call me direct, 781-571-0299. I employ no salespeople. You'll talk to me and me only. And again, you could find Doug at that great site that's been around forever and a day, Doc Sports, and longevity speaks volumes, folks. A lot of great handicappers on that site, including my partner here, Doug Upstone. Until the next time, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Good luck and God bless.